How's it going? My name is Aaron. Color. I'm gonna talk about color in films, right? Okay, that's a terrible start, but I'll keep it. Color in film has been around since the early 1900s, but it really wasn't until the 1930s where the start of something special in film, which was the rise of Technicolor. Technicolor was able to achieve capturing 3 separate films of each being red, green, and blue, and I'm very bad at explaining things, so I'll pop up the video here, kind of making a better explanation of it. It's very interesting.
In order to get Technicolor to work, it was an insanely difficult process. Technicolor distributed guides like these, and we can make a reasonable simulation digitally with a scene like this. So here's a scene of some Lego people who are apparently worshipping Lawrence of Arabia. Not sure what's going on here, but it's our starting image. A Technicolor camera would typically take that picture and shoot it through a prism that split the light into red, blue, and green negatives for the picture. These negatives were then flipped into positive matrices, which eventually got soaked with dyes of the complementary colors. So the red matrix turned cyan, the green one magenta, and the blue one yellow. Then the dye was transferred. This was called a dye transfer process to create a final gorgeous Technicolor image.
As you can see here, one of the most iconic examples was Wizard of Oz, which was one of the many of Technicolor's amazing works that depicted all the bright colors, which made the land of Oz seem so full of life. In the part where they're in Kansas, everything looks like it's covered in a sepia tone. They supposedly had the set actually be colored in that like dirty sepia tone seen on the film, and even had a double for the actress that played Dorothy, who was dressed in sepia tones. Color in film can represent a multitude of themes to a story and convey a wide spectrum of emotions. I personally think that color in anything related to movies, series, music videos, and so on is sort of the icing on the cake that has multiple layers that build a story. What I believe is the intention of what colors are supposed to give to the viewer is subconscious feelings and a understanding of what the story must show for. I'm going to focus more on what color does for film rather than the history, so let's start with what color theory in the film industry means, which is the notion that certain hues on the color wheel combine to create particular visual effects. My favorite example is Blade Runner 2049, which is the sequel to Blade Runner, to those who haven't seen it.
What do you mean you've never seen Blade Runner?
God, that was awful. First of all, the cinematography in this movie is one of my favorites of all time, because it's most visually stunning scenes are analogous, which is partnering up neighboring colors in one palette, like red and orange and so on, whatever, and monochromatic, which is essentially playing with one color that stays in the same hue but with different values. You can see scenes from the movie elicit warm and cold colors a lot, but the one that is the most helpful throughout the whole movie is the main character is basically searching for answers, right? I'll try to avoid big spoilers, but basically he's trying to find answers throughout the whole movie, and every time he gets a clue to figure out the truth, the color yellow is presented in the scene, and I'll put up some examples behind me or whatever. Now, before I get into more about how colors are used to tell a story in film, I'll first dive into the term HSB and what colors mean in stories. HSB being hue, which is the single type of color in the color wheel, like red, yellow, blue, and so on. S being the saturation of what a single color that can determine how intense it can be. And lastly, B, which is the brightness, meaning how dark or light the color can be. This video by Studio Binder puts up great examples of how you can group colors in different ways for films.
So by utilizing hue, saturation, and brightness, you can precisely identify the right colors to create certain feelings in your audience. Bright images often seem lively and exciting. Darker images often seem dramatic. And on it goes.
With the ability to use HSB in your film, you can pick and choose the type of colors that can be shown in your film and what you want them to represent. So let's go over some quick examples of how colors can represent certain emotions. And again, I'll use Studio Binder's sheet example showing some of the psychology of colors in movies. First off, we're going to start with red, which can range from love to anger. Pink can mean empathy or beauty. Orange can mean warmth or friendly. Yellow can mean madness or naive. Green can mean nature or danger. Blue can mean cold or calm. Purple can mean fantasy or ominous. So let's say you got all the colors figured out. The next step would be figuring out in what way you want to use your selection of colors. I mentioned earlier about monochromatic and analogous. Monochromatic again being a single color palette, and analogous having 2 or 3 neighboring colors together. The two other terms, one being the most common in my opinion, complementary, which is what you would think it is. 2 colors from the opposite side of the color wheel. I'm wearing red and green, but it's different shades. So usually that's how it would work really good. You usually don't put like a really bright red with a really bright green and so on. But lastly, you have the triadic, which is a 3-color scheme that uses a similar idea to complementary by evenly spacing out the colors, so they all complement each other. Lastly, once you figured out all that mumbo jumbo, you can go on to how you will use these colors, which, I would start off with color discordance, which is basically having a color stick out to the viewer to get their attention, like in Schindler's List. You see the girl wearing red and everything else is black and white. You can also make it associative, which is pinning a character and a color scheme together so you get a sense of familiarity. Yeah, totally butchered that. With both of them, like in Kill Bill or Batman or Vertigo. And also you can get for example, like a sense of different meanings from these colors. For example, Batman, he's all dressed in black and he is the good guy in the movie, so you associate him as a good guy with the color. But in something like Star Wars, Darth Vader is dressed in all black and he is the bad guy of the movie, so you can see the differences there. Lastly, you could use it in a transitional sense where the color scheme goes from one end of the spectrum to the other, like Star Wars or Up. You can see, Luke goes from very bright colors to very dark colors at the end of the trilogy. So a great example is one of my favorite shows, Breaking Bad. The main character goes from light to dark colors. I strongly recommend watching that show, as the cinematography and the storytelling I find very nice to experience. A great example of associating colors with the theme is another great short series called Chernobyl. I'll let the video kind of explain this one better.
We take Chernobyl, they establish right at the beginning that green is bad. Anytime radiation is present, there is a green tint throughout the entire scene. When our main character thinks everything is fine, it's normal colors, and whenever he reads about the radiation leak, the color immediately turns green, a sickly, gross green. So green is dangerous and blue is safe. And again, once we establish those colors, we can continue to show the audience what is safe and what is not. The hazmat suits are green, signifying radiation. When she visits her husband in the hospital, the curtains are a nice white, but whenever he is dying of radiation, the curtain becomes an eerie green. The sanitation trucks that clean the radiation, they are blue, signifying that this is safe. The captain, who wears green for the entire runtime, has to convince a group of men to move radioactive rocks from the roof. While he's doing that, he's wearing green. When the job is finished, all of a sudden he's wearing blue. This shows the audience that the job they're about to do is dangerous, and then whenever it is done, the danger is now over and it is safe. 3 men are tasked with disposing of radioactive animals, and the truck they drive is blue, which is safe, yet the truck bed with all the radioactive animals is green. This 2-tone color of this truck was not by accident. It's showing us that in the cab is safe and whatever is in the back is not. Both of these films communicate danger and safety to the audience by establishing dangerous and safe colors at the beginning and using them throughout the entire runtime. But like I said at the beginning, the thing I love about color in film is that yes, I'm bringing attention to it, but when you watch it, this is not something that you ever notice. This is a subconscious message communicated to the audience. So when the audience sees someone walk into a green room in Chernobyl, they don't think, there's green in this room, he should get out of there. Instead, they think it's dangerous, he should get out of there. And the audience doesn't know exactly why they know there is danger in this room, but they just know it isn't safe. And we know it's because the director has established a good and bad color, and we are showing the audience the bad color in this room. This is not something the audience is aware of, but subconsciously this information is fed to the audience and determines exactly how they feel.
Another amazing example is one of my favorites, which is Wes Anderson, who made some of the most intriguing movies I've seen. Also pop up a video kind of explaining that better of what he does in his movies as well, involving color.
Much like storybook characters, Wes Anderson's characters are often connected to a single color.
Where are we?
Monsieur Gustave is purple. Susie is pink. Chaz is red. Let's look at that last color, red. It comes up a lot in Wes Anderson's films. The crew in Life Aquatic wear red beanies. The brothers in the Darjeeling Limited drive a red car. In Rushmore, Max wears a red hat.
I like your hat.
Oh, thank you.
Chaz and his sons in the Royal Tenenbaums wear red tracksuits. But let's look deeper at the characters themselves. They all have issues progressing past a regressed adolescent state. Chaz Tenenbaum suffers from immense trauma from his father, leaving his family at a young age.
Do you still love Mom?
Yes, very much, but your mother's asked me to leave, and I must respect her position on the matter.
And his wife tragically died in a plane crash.
Fire alarm! Let's go!
As a result, Chaz is overprotective.
Hey! Are you listening to me?
Yes, I am! I think you're having a nervous breakdown. I don't think you recovered from Rachel's death.
Chaz is in a state of arrested development, which is why he comes across as childish throughout the film.
4 minutes, 48 seconds. We're all dead, burned to a crisp.
All these characters who wear red have some kind of trauma they're trying to overcome. And in Chaz's case, the only time we see him shed his red palette is when his chance to finally reconcile with his father already passes. So when designing color palettes for your characters, consider what colors you can associate them with.
So I think ever since color became popular in film, it has opened a new door of infinite possibilities of how you can convey a story to an audience. Besides stating the obvious, color should be something of big consideration when you're making your next film project. And yes, that means even if you're making it in black and white. Consider what the colors can mean to the story and have it enhance your themes rather than pushing it aside and waste an opportunity to make something great. Unless you're colorblind, then this whole thing just got very awkward. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a fun and safe winter break. Thank you.